So in the 80s, we didn't have YOLO, right? But it's not that we were free of acronyms. We still liked our acronyms. We had WTF, right? As in, sometimes you just have to say, what the fuck? This is what got me into every bit of trouble that I got into. And it was mostly via my brother. I don't know if you are aware, but that is from the classic early 80s movie, Risky Business. You've seen Risky Business, some of you? Okay. It was actually how his friend talked him into giving a party with his school friends and prostitutes to introduce them. That was the logic he used, because sometimes you just have to say, what the fuck? And my brother would use this on me, and sometimes he didn't even need to. For example, when I was 17 and my brother was 14, he asked me, just said, hey, would you mind giving me a ride to this high school party? Never mind the fact that he wasn't in high school yet. I had never been to a cool high school party before. I was actually in high school at the time. I was the only one of the two of us that had been, and yet he was going to the party. So it wasn't going to be any party. It was going to be a cool party. This was my brother, who was cool. And he wasn't just any brother. He was my only brother. And so I said, yeah, sure, like I did it all the time. And he assured me that he had directions. I don't know if you've ever followed directions from a high schooler. This is before the world of GPS and everything. But, I mean, as we would come to dead end after dead end, he would say, because he knew how to interpret them, well, what if he meant take a left at the fork instead of a right at that fork? Let's go back and try that. And magically it would work. And so we did a few of these, reconfiguring, and we got there. I was pretty excited. My first cool high school party. Sure, I was taking my younger brother, but and so when we got there, I just wanted to see what it was all about. And we went out and through the house and out to the backyard, and there was basically just a bunch of people drinking out of a keg, and the music was pretty loud, and they were like the guys were kind of like headbutting each other and doing physical stuff, which I don't know, may have been suppression of homophobic urges. I don't know. But the point is that I was kind of disappointed, right? Like this is really all it's about. This is what people are wanting to go to. I was a little disappointed. But then my brother introduced me to this guy. He said, oh, hey, I want you to meet Rich Valdez. He's like the fastest pitcher I've ever caught before. He's got a wicked curveball. And I'm looking at this guy, and I'm first feeling lascivious because he's my younger brother's friend. But then I realized he's older than me. And he's really hot. And I'm thinking, I want to see your curveball, your wicked curveball. But my brother, Max, says, hey, I told him that you'd give him a ride home because you're cool like that. And I love the idea of being cool, even for a misguided moment. And even if it was just manipulation, I was just so excited for one mistaken moment to be portrayed as cool. So of course, I did. And on our way back home, just a nice ride home, and I don't drink, so it's totally safe. My eyes were peeled to the road. I just recently got my license. And my brother were talking, and somehow it comes up that I don't know how to do donuts because I'm not that kind of a driver. And Rich and my brother are both kind of appalled. They're like, what? And my brother lays down the line, no sister of mine is going to go through life without knowing how to drive and turn donuts. So he's like, drive to Whetstone Park. We're not that far. Just make a left here. We're gonna use that baseball field. It'll be fine now. And there's no security cameras. So we go to this field, and I'm thinking, no. But then my brother, he's got to ratchet up a notch. He's like, the Stanza, which is my mother's car, he's like, put down the sunroof. It's got this cool sunroof. He's like, Rich and I are going to hang on top on the sunroof so I can give you advice if you need any. And I'm just like, no, I don't want to learn with possibly your life on the line. That's too much, no. And he does the whole, sometimes you gotta say, what the... I was like, ugh. I mean, he gets me with that every time. And plus, there was Rich standing there who still may think I'm cool. So I'm like, all right, fine, get on top. I roll down the way. And they get on, they're psyched. And, they've been drinking, so this is probably just all fun for them. I don't know. But we start driving, and, I've cranked the radio, 107.3, people, Q103. And we're driving. And at first, and I'm following my brother's instructions, he's like, okay, now hit the brake, now turn, hard left, spin, and I'm thinking, I'm a natural at this. I should be like a stunt driver. I am really good. And they're laughing and having the time of their lives up there holding on, and they're crying things out. And then that Rebel Yell song comes on the radio. You remember that? And I'm thinking, yeah, that's what I am. I'm a rebel because this probably isn't legal. I'm not sure. And the music gets louder. I turn it up even more to like the most it can go, the little stanza can play. And as they're yelling, like I notice after a while that their yells aren't the fun kind of yells. And suddenly it occurs to me they're saying the same thing, like they're both screaming the same thing, but I can't really, it's like, booyah. I'm like, what? I go, what? I don't think to turn down the music. I do, what? And finally I realize they're both saying, the bank, the river bank. And I look ahead. Well, see, this is not my baseball field. I'm not used to this field. And it turns out that there was a river. There's not. I would have seen a river, but it was a dried up river, and so there was still a river bank, and there was sort of two of them, and kind of like a muddy kind of gulch. But what happened was I saw it just in time to realize what they were talking about, and I hit the brakes as hard as I could, but it didn't do any good. We had just hit the little bit of a lip, and it was enough of a lip to make us like go into the air, get airborne. And then we hit sort of the bank on the other side, like nose first. And what happened was like everything went silent all at once. Like the car engine stopped, the radio stopped, and they stopped talking. And it was the eeriest silence I've ever heard. And the only thing I saw at all, the only motion, was this arm, because they had kind of come forward, and this arm had slid over and was hanging like this in my face. And it occurred to me that I had killed not one but two people. I mean, I was 17. I was so young, and I probably wouldn't do well in prison. I'm not that kind of hard, And so not only did I kill like a hot guy, but I killed my brother. He was my only brother, and I liked him. And then there's the whole thing about what you say to your parents, like, well, he told me to do it. I mean, and it was this really long time and still total silence. And I'm now thinking, like, well, I have to single-handedly dispose of the bodies. Do you get in more trouble for two than one, or is it the same? I don't know. And all of a sudden, the most beautiful sound I ever heard, my brother's voice, and he says, "Oh, I'm never going to have children." Just music to my ears. He was alive. They were both alive, as it turned out. And they were able to climb down from the car, and we all checked out the car. And it looked actually like undamaged, except for there's a bunch of grass stuck up under the carriage and in the nose and all this. And we did our best to clean it, but, what can you do? And we just hoped my mother wouldn't notice right off. And the car started. That was good. We were able to back it up, get it out of the bank. When we got home, it was a little bit quieter, a little less raucous, a little less cool maybe. And we were worried. And the very next morning, my mother was like, "Miles, Andrew Chapman, and Stephanie Lynn Chapman, you get over here right now." And she was calling from the garage area. And so we showed up, trying to look as innocent as we could. And she pointed to the stanza, and she said, "Look at this." And she's pointing to all the grass stuck on the underside of the car. And we were just both very quiet. And she said, "I am never driving either one of you over that ball field again when I drop you off to play your games, because look at what has happened to my car." I just couldn't believe. It was like our luck was too good to be true that we weren't getting busted. So apparently sometimes WTF works. Thank you.